Hello everyone, Mark here, Mark's Max Muscle, and we have a very special feature for you folks today. Any video with Ronnie King Coleman as the main subject is special, in my opinion. Now, Ronnie is the greatest Mr. Olympia champion of all time. We all know he's an 8-time Olympia champion. He won his very first ever title, 1998. 99, he came back even better. 2000, he easily retained his title again for a third time. 2001, he was a little off, but he still won the title. 2002, also, the same could be said. 2003, my soul. 2004, and finally, 2005, he took his 8th Mr. Olympia title. And I'm sure if you're an avid bodybuilding fan, you've seen all of those versions before of Ronnie King Coleman. Today, we are going to look at all of his other IFBB Pro wins. So sit back, relax, get settled in, have yourself a little satchel of snacks, unless you're dieting, and let me tell you a tale of high adventure of Ronnie the King Coleman. You can see there was quite a drought of wins here. He didn't win until 1995, the Canada Pro Cup. Who did he beat? This was the roster. We had Günther Schlierkamp, Milo Sarcev. He was good. A couple other names there. Rich Gaspari. That's very interesting. He was still competing in 95. Coleman looked pretty good here. Ooh, they gave him a nice little bowl. And to me, the funny thing about that bowl is now it's worth more than it ever possibly could have been, because it was Ronnie King Coleman's trophy from his first pro show win. I mean, that has to be in a museum somewhere. Well, I'm sure Ronnie still has it now. Now let us scroll down to 1996. Again, he only won a single pro show, but this time things were a little bit different. Have a look at the roster, if you will. He defeated Ken Wheeler. It is Flex Wheeler, guys. This was the very first ever time that he defeated the great Flex Wheeler. And was it debatable? I don't think so. Geez, Milo Sarcev, whatever it is. I apologize. He looks great. And from the front, it could be debatable. But when they turned around to reveal their back developments, there's just no way. It was lights out. Ronnie King Coleman, he won this one with ease. And for Ronnie King Coleman at that time to get a victory over the likes of Flex Wheeler, that was a big deal. So he had a lot of momentum heading into 1997, and still just one single victory. But this was a very important one. You see who he defeated there? Kevin Levrone, Nasser El-Sanbadi, Chris Cormier, Paul Dillette. I mean, those were the best bodybuilders on the face of the earth, aside from Flex Wheeler, a guy who he did defeat. So Ronnie King Coleman, the writing was kind of on the wall after this Russian Grand Prix. And it was the whole story where Ronnie King Coleman, he was doing all the Grand Prix. He wasn't getting anywhere. I don't know if he was depressed, but he was upset. So he went over to Kevin Levrone's apartment building, or his hotel room, not his apartment, his hotel in Russia. How do you do it, Kevin? How do you get so good? So Kevin gave him a little sip of vodka. He said, there you go. Ronnie was probably thinking, is he trying to sabotage me? He gave him some vodka. Thinned his skin out, right? And then he gave him some pizza. He gave him the combination pizza and vodka. And he walked out onto that Russian Grand Prix Russia, whatever you want to call it, that stage, and he was peeled. Super peeled. And unfortunately, not very much footage of this infamous Russian Grand Prix. So if you're keeping count, that's only his third pro show win. But it was the competition that he was defeating that made it so impressive. And then we scroll down to 1998. This was the beginning of the end. You can see the San Fran Pro. And that would be the last time Coleman lost for a long time. And then he began his reign of terror with a Finland Grand Prix victory, 1998, and then on to the Grand Prix Germany. And I apologize, fellases. Not much footage of these events, and ditto with the Toronto Pro as well. And as far as who he was beating, it's Kevin Levrone there, Nasser El-Sambadi. It was the usual guys. He had already defeated everybody. So it didn't really much matter anymore who he was beating. And then he went on to win the Night of Champions. This was probably his biggest win at the time. Keep in mind, he was on his way to the Olympia, the 1998 Mr. Olympia event. And as we know, he did go on to win that event. But this video is to showcase the other victories. So we're not going to see too many pictures of the Olympia winning versions of Ronnie King Coleman. On to 1999. You can see he won 2 shows aside from the Mr. Olympia event, the Grand Prix England, World Pro Championships. This is from the Grand Prix England. I like to call it the British Grand Prix. It's where Flex Wheeler, he was huge. Some people even say he should have beat Ronnie. Have a look at the back. Do you still say that? I absolutely would not. Now, as far as the 1999 World Pro Championships, this Ronnie King Coleman, and I'll go on record when I say this, this is my favorite non-Olympia winning version of Coleman. He was unbelievable here. Look at the size of him. And he's shredded. He's shredded. Have a look at the back. Not bad at all. The arms as well. So his condition was in. He was massive. He was huge. And look at the abs and thigh. I don't think I've ever seen Coleman look quite so aesthetically pleasing here. It was before he got the thicker midsection. But in certain shots, he looks as big as he's ever looked. So the 1999 World Pro Championships. If you've never laid eyes on this version of Coleman before, have a look. Looks pretty good. And that brings us to 2000. And the English Grand Prix once again, as I like to call the British Grand Prix. No footage of this, unfortunately. Could have been a great version of Coleman. We'll never know. And yet another World Pro Championships win for Coleman. And again, I apologize, guys. Not much footage. And in some cases, 0 footage. Now, as we go into 2001, fortunately, we have all kinds of pictures of the Arnold Classic win from Ronnie King Coleman. And this will go down in history as his best win, aside from the Olympias. It's an Arnold Classic victory. At the time, no other Mr. Olympia champion even entered this competition until Ronnie King Coleman did. And of course he won. He looked great. People that were there, I wasn't there obviously, but people that were there said it was the very best Ronnie King Coleman. Again, he has a 1999-ish, maybe a 98-ish look without the gyno. So yes, I'm holding to my guns. I'm sticking to my guns for the 99 World Pro Championships. But 2001, Arnold's Classics. Come on, he is the finest champion with my name in every pose. So yes, Ronnie's biggest win, by far, aside from any of the Olympias. I mean, it's an Arnold Classic. Then he did the New Zealand Grand Prix, and 0 footage. I tried to trick you. I was going to try to trick you guys. You guys are too intelligent for that. This is from the Arnold Classic 2001, not the New Zealand Grand Prix. And then after a couple of, I guess you could say, not that convincing Olympia victories, Ronnie King Coleman had a terrible year. He did the Dutch Grand Prix, and from what I can see, he did not look that great. He did win, though. And then he went on to the Show of Strength, where he lost. Coleman lost. Can you believe that? Judging by this picture, I do believe it. Günther Schlierkamp, beat the reigning Olympia champion. I mean, that never happens. That never happens. So how did he redeem himself? Well, he came back 300 pounds and won the Olympia in 2003, did Ronnie King Coleman. But we're not talking about the Olympia, are we? No, we are not. We are talking about events like this one. This is the Russian Grand Prix, 2003. Coleman was huge here, and if I'm not mistaken, he tied the then record of Kevin Levroni's for Pro Show wins. I think it was 20. I guess if you're keeping count on this video, maybe it is 20, right? So a very important win for the king himself. And then he entered 2004. This was his last year of dominance. You can see he won the 05 Olympia. That was his last win, guys. Now, after the 2004 Olympia, Ronnie King Coleman went on to win the British Grand Prix or the English Grand Prix. This is one of my favorite versions of Ronnie King Coleman. Not many people talk about this version of Ronnie, and the poses that people don't talk about, the abs and thigh, look at this. It looks fantastic. And of course, all of his signature strengths were up to par. Huge, big back. So, 2004, British Grand Prix or English Grand Prix. When was the last time you heard anybody mention that? I think Superset, the Superset man, did a video on this version 3 years back. Here's Ron at the Dutch Grand Prix, or do they call it the Holland Grand Prix? One of the two. He was absolutely massive. Looked like he put on 20 pounds since that British Grand Prix. I don't know the details. And then we enter Ronnie King Coleman's last victory, aside from the Olympia, the 05 Olympia. This is the 2004 Grand Prix Russia, or the Russian Grand Prix. Have you ever seen Coleman look so bloody huge? Unreal. And as far as condition is concerned, not many clear pictures, but I mean, if you know what to look for, this is a peeled, ripped to shreds, Mooney, diced to the socks, Ronnie King Coleman. So there are many versions. Obviously, all of the Olympias, 98, 99, 2003, they say he was at his all-time best. 2004, Russian Grand Prix, Ronnie King Coleman. I do not see anything wrong with this. He was huge, near 300 pounds, and he was ripped to shreds. And ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, after this victory, he defeated Vince Taylor's record of Pro Show wins. So I think he was the winningest bodybuilder of all time at this point in time in his career. So Ronnie King Coleman, he is the great one. Not just a Mr. Olympia champion, not just an 8-time Mr. Olympia champion. He's also a Night of Champions winner. He won a pile of Grand Prix. He is an Arnold Classic champion, 2-time Canada Pro Cup winner, and of course, World Championships. He won the World Championships a couple of times. Wow, what a career. And when you think about, I don't want to, say anything bad about today's competitors, but geez Louise, this guy was Olympia champion, competing again and again, and he's still the greatest. And nowadays, some of them only compete once a year, if they make it. So that's it for this one. Really hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Ronnie King Coleman's career. Aside from, of course, those great Olympia victories, the guy was not just sitting back, eating bonbons, twiddling his thumbs. He was also making a career in bodybuilding, aside from the Olympia. Wow. No wonder he's the great one. Have a nice one, guys.